The global logistics network did not collapse overnight. It suffocated under the weight of its own physical limitations. By the mid-2020s, international aviation faced an inescapable wall of compounding crises, driven by punitive carbon taxation reaching $300 per metric ton of carbon dioxide emissions, skyrocketing synthetic fuel costs, and a structurally degraded airspace. Simultaneously, maritime shipping lanes deteriorated into permanent geopolitical flashpoints, with the Suez Canal and the Malacca Strait choked by asymmetric drone warfare and state-sponsored blockades. When a series of naval escalations effectively severed the traditional commercial arteries between the manufacturing hubs of Asia and the consumer markets of the West, the North Atlantic Trade Corridor became the final stand for economic survival. A $12 trillion economic alliance between North America and Western Europe was on the verge of total paralysis due to sheer logistical friction. Air freight could no longer sustain the volume of high-value microchips, pharmaceutical compounds, and precision automation components required to keep heavy industries operational, while cargo ships remained far too slow, requiring 12 days to brave the increasingly hostile oceanic routes. The crisis demanded a solution that bypassed the atmosphere and the ocean surface entirely. The answer was an absolute, uninterrupted physical link capable of shifting millions of tons of freight and high-value human capital at ballistic velocities. To preserve their global economic hegemony against a rising Eastern manufacturing bloc, Washington and London committed to an infrastructure initiative that defied conventional economic sanity. The transatlantic tunnel was born, not out of scientific curiosity, but out of raw, cold-calculated state survival. The initial capital expenditure was projected at a staggering $1.2 trillion, a sum exceeding the combined cost of every major infrastructure project executed in human history. To fund this monumental endeavor, a consortium of G7 sovereign wealth funds executed the largest bond issuance in financial history, effectively mortgaging future transatlantic trade tariffs for the next 3 generations. The scale of the ambition was outright madness. A continuous 5,000-kilometer vacuum-sealed infrastructure system suspended within the abyssal depths of the Atlantic Ocean. This project meant moving beyond the era of localized tunnels and entered the domain of planetary-scale engineering, where traditional notions of return on investment were replaced by a grim reality. Build the tunnel, or watch the Western economic infrastructure face systemic, irreversible obsolescence. The Atlantic Ocean is an environment of absolute engineering hostility, a 5,000-kilometer expanse characterized by extreme hydrostatic pressure, unpredictable tectonic rifts, and violent hydrodynamic forces. Traditional civil engineering offers 2 methods for underwater transit: boring beneath the seabed, or laying an immersed tube directly onto the ocean floor. For a transatlantic project, both conventional approaches represent a guaranteed engineering death sentence. Boring beneath the Atlantic seabed requires cutting through the mid-Atlantic ridge, a highly volatile tectonic plate boundary where the North American and Eurasian plates are violently tearing themselves apart at a rate of 2.5 centimeters per year. Drilling through this active zone means exposing a tunnel to continuous seismic tremors, magma intrusions, and shifting rock strata that would shear a rigid concrete structure like glass. Conversely, dropping the tunnel directly onto the ocean floor is impossible due to the crushing hydrostatic pressure of the abyssal plain. At depths of 5 kilometers, the water exerts an omnidirectional pressure exceeding 50 megapascals, 500 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. No civilian structure could withstand these forces without imploding instantly, and the jagged underwater topography, scarred by massive submarine canyons and unstable silt fields, offers no stable foundation. Faced with these geographic dead ends, engineers had to abandon the seabed entirely and position the structure within the mid-water column, precisely 100 meters beneath the surface. This approach created a submerged floating tunnel, a massive pipe suspended in a state of neutral buoyancy, floating in perpetual limbo between the crushing abyss and the turbulent surface waves. However, moving into the mid-water column trades geological threats for complex fluid dynamics. At a depth of 100 meters, the tunnel escapes the destructive kinetic energy of surface storms and rogue waves, but it remains fully exposed to the relentless, massive forces of deep ocean currents. The North Atlantic Current moves millions of cubic meters of water per second, exerting a continuous, lateral hydrodynamic drag against the structure. A mere 1% error in calculating these hydrodynamic forces, or the structural ballast distribution, would trigger an irreversible structural failure. If the tunnel's internal buoyancy exceeds the design parameters by even a fractional margin, the upward tension will cause the massive anchoring cables to snap under extreme tensile stress. The moment a single anchor cable fails, the localized stress instantly transfers to adjacent sectors, initiating a catastrophic domino effect across tens of kilometers. The unanchored section of the tunnel would violently surge upward toward the surface, where it would be torn apart by the immense kinetic impact of surface wave action and colliding ultra-large container ships, instantly destroying hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure and drowning everyone inside. Transforming this conceptual madness into physical reality required abandoning standard construction methodologies and developing a new paradigm of heavy industrial machinery. The construction process cannot occur sequentially from the coastlines outward. Instead, it requires a decentralized, highly synchronized maritime assembly line operating simultaneously across the open ocean. The building blocks of the tunnel are massive, modular cylindrical segments fabricated within specialized, highly automated dry docks constructed along the deep water fjords of Scotland and the rugged coastlines of Nova Scotia. Each individual tunnel module is an industrial monolith, measuring 200 meters in length and 40 meters in diameter, weighing over 500,000 metric tons. These segments are not constructed from ordinary industrial concrete, which would quickly degrade under the chemical assault of seawater and underwater pressure. Instead, engineers developed an ultra-high-performance, fiber-reinforced reactive powder concrete mixed with microscopic silica fume and high-tensile steel microfibers, yielding a compressive strength exceeding 200 megapascals. This specialized material is poured around a dense structural skeleton of heavy grade 50 titanium alloyed steel liners, creating a multi-layered composite hull designed to endure centuries of underwater exposure without losing structural integrity. Once a module is cast and cured, its ends are sealed with temporary high-pressure bulkheads, turning the massive concrete structure into a buoyant hull. These segments are floated out into the open ocean using a fleet of specialized, semi-submersible heavy-lift catamaran vessels. Navigating these 500,000-ton blocks to their exact coordinates in the middle of the Atlantic requires absolute precision. Utilizing advanced Class 3 dynamic positioning systems tied to a constellation of dedicated tracking satellites and underwater acoustic transponders. To lower the modules into the deep-sea currents, the transport vessels utilize massive computer-controlled hydraulic winch systems capable of managing thousands of tons of dynamic load. The module is submerged to its deployment depth of 100 meters, where it must be joined to the previously installed section of the tunnel. This critical alignment is executed by automated underwater robotic positioning rigs that lock the modules together with millimeter precision. Once aligned, a system of high-capacity hydraulic actuators pulls the segments into a tight embrace, compressing massive multi-tiered elastomeric seals to form an initial watertight joint. Engineers then deploy hyperbaric welding habitats around the external joint, allowing specialized robotic systems to weld the heavy titanium structural casings together. With the structural outer weld complete, the water trapped inside the junction chamber is pumped out, creating an atmospheric void that allows crews to enter the tunnel from the inside, permanently securing the internal structural reinforcement rings and installing heavy-duty, post-tensioned steel tendons across the joint. To lock this floating pipeline securely in place against the ocean currents, it must be tethered firmly to the ocean floor. This requires installing a massive network of high-tensile carbon fiber tension legs along the entire 5,000-kilometer route. Deep-sea drilling platforms deploy specialized, heavy-duty, remotely operated vehicles to install these tethers into the basaltic rock of the seabed. In areas with dense rock, the ROVs utilize massive down-the-hole hammer drills to create deep shafts, inserting heavy steel anchor piles that are grouted into place with high-strength underwater polymers. In softer silt fields, massive suction caissons, measuring 30 meters in diameter, are driven deep into the ocean floor using hydrostatic pressure differentials, creating an unyielding anchor capable of resisting thousands of tons of continuous vertical lifting force. These carbon fiber tethers, which are impervious to saltwater corrosion and possess a tensile strength 4 times greater than high-strength steel, are attached to the tunnel hull via massive, articulating hydraulic damper assemblies designed to absorb the constant kinetic energy of ocean currents and seismic shock waves. With the physical shell of the tunnel fully secured, the engineering focus shifts to the internal environment, where the conditions for supersonic transit must be established. The ultimate goal is to eliminate the primary physical barrier to extreme speed, aerodynamic drag. To achieve this, the entire internal volume of the transit tubes must be converted into a near-perfect vacuum. This requires installing the most extensive industrial pumping infrastructure ever conceived, consisting of thousands of high-capacity multi-stage roots blowers and cryogenic turbomolecular vacuum pumps positioned at strategic intervals throughout the tunnel's length. These industrial pumping systems must operate continuously for months to evacuate the air from the 5,000-kilometer tube, reducing the internal atmospheric pressure to less than 1 millibar, an environment mimicking the upper layers of the Earth's stratosphere. Maintaining this vacuum requires an absolute seal. Even a microscopic pinhole leak in a weld would allow high-pressure seawater to atomize as it enters the vacuum, creating an immediate localized atmospheric wall that would destroy an oncoming train. Inside this long vacuum chamber, traditional steel wheels and rails are entirely useless, as the friction at supersonic speeds would instantly melt the components. Instead, the transit system relies on advanced Maglev technology, utilizing zero-resistance superconducting magnets. The tunnel's interior is lined with a continuous track of track-integrated linear induction motors and null-flux suspension coils. When the train operates, these superconducting magnets generate powerful electromagnetic fields that levitate the vehicle 100 millimeters above the track, completely eliminating mechanical friction. Without aerodynamic drag or mechanical resistance, the train functions essentially as a projectile inside a particle accelerator. The linear induction motors apply a continuous, synchronized electromagnetic wave that accelerates the aerodynamic train capsule to a maximum cruising velocity of 4,000 kilometers per hour, more than 3 times the speed of sound and faster than a high-velocity rifle bullet. At this speed, the train crosses the entire expanse between London and New York in exactly 54 minutes, completely redefining the relationship between space and time on a global scale. Behind the grand engineering designs lies a complex web of corporate maneuvers, sovereign debt manipulation, and intense resource competition. Funding a project requiring $1.2 trillion means operating outside the boundaries of conventional public finance. The Transatlantic Tunnel Project is governed by a secretive, treaty-backed corporate entity known as the Transatlantic Infrastructure Consortium, TIC. An organization granted unprecedented legal immunities and sovereign domain over the maritime corridors it occupies. This entity operates as a shadow state, backed by a complex network of credit default swaps and inflation-hedged sovereign guarantees provided by the world's most powerful central banks. The allocation of construction contracts triggered an intense, quiet corporate civil war within the global industrial complex. Aerospace conglomerates, recognizing that a 1-hour transit time between London and New York would permanently destroy the highly lucrative transatlantic business class air travel market, deployed armies of corporate lobbyists and funded targeted environmental campaigns to derail the project. They argued that the electromagnetic fields generated by the Maglev system would permanently disrupt the migration patterns of marine mammals, attempting to utilize international maritime courts to halt construction. In response, the heavy industrial and steel cartels, who stood to gain trillions in revenue, counter-lobbied with aggressive economic pressure, leveraging sovereign debt leverage to ensure national governments fast-tracked environmental approvals and suppressed regulatory resistance. The sheer volume of raw materials required for the tunnel threatened to destabilize global commodity markets for over a decade. The design called for over 150 million metric tons of specialized structural steel, an amount equivalent to 3 years of total production for the entire United States steel industry. To secure these massive allocations without triggering extreme market inflation, the TIC executed secret, long-term forward purchasing agreements, effectively buying out the production capacity of major European and North American steel mills years in advance. This move starved domestic civil infrastructure projects of vital materials, causing bridge repairs and industrial expansions worldwide to stall due to artificial shortages and inflated prices. The procurement of rare earth elements required for the train's superconducting magnets presented an even more complex geopolitical challenge. The Maglev system demanded over 85,000 metric tons of high-purity neodymium iron-boron alloys, a material whose supply chain was almost entirely monopolized by state-controlled mining operations in mainland China. To prevent a geopolitical veto from crippling the project, Western intelligence agencies and corporate entities had to execute a series of aggressive economic interventions in Central Africa and Greenland, establishing new, secure mining concessions and processing facilities outside the rival superpowers' sphere of influence. This led to localized proxy conflicts and intense diplomatic standoffs, as rival nations used trade restrictions to counter the Western resource grab. Managing the physical movement of these materials created a complex logistical challenge. The project required deploying a massive, dedicated fleet of over 300 specialized cargo vessels, heavy-lift barges, and floating concrete batching plants operating continuously across the turbulent North Atlantic. The logistics schedule had to function with military precision, as a delay of just 24 hours at a single component factory in Germany or a steel mill in Pennsylvania would disrupt the deep-sea assembly fleets, burning through over $50 million in daily operational overhead. The maritime assembly zones became heavily secured areas, patrolled by private security vessels and naval warships to protect the vulnerable floating assets from potential sabotage, industrial espionage, or asymmetric attacks by rival foreign actors looking to disrupt Western industrial consolidation. After 22 years of continuous high-stakes construction, the transatlantic tunnel reaches its critical milestone, the commissioning phase. The temporary bulkheads are removed, and the final structural welds are completed, transforming the 5,000-kilometer pipeline into a single continuous pressure vessel suspended beneath the ocean. Engineers begin the final high-stakes stress testing of the system. The internal vacuum pumps are brought to full operational capacity, drawing down the pressure across the entire length of the tube to its designated ultra-high vacuum state. Automated acoustic monitoring arrays, containing millions of ultra-sensitive piezoelectric sensors, scan every square centimeter of the titanium hull. They listen to the structural sounds of the tunnel as it adjusts to the immense hydrostatic pressure of the ocean and the intense tension of its anchoring legs. The primary engineering challenge during this phase is managing the immense forces of thermal expansion. Human civilization has crossed the threshold into the hypervelocity era. When the first commercial transit vehicles begin regular operations, the existing geopolitical map is instantly rewritten. The physical barrier of the Atlantic Ocean, which has dictated global trade, military strategy, and human migration for centuries, is effectively eliminated. London and New York are no longer distant metropolitan hubs separated by a vast ocean in an exhausting 8-hour flight. They become adjacent stations on a high-density, hypervelocity economic axis. Executives, high-value technical specialists, and critical freight move between continents in less time than a standard suburban commute. The old paradigms of global logistics collapse. The high-end air travel market disappears entirely, forcing major international airlines into bankruptcy or restructuring as regional short-haul carriers. High-value, time-sensitive freight moves through the tunnel with absolute reliability, completely bypassing the weather delays, winter storms, and maritime choke points that have long disrupted global supply chains. The immediate weatherproof connection anchors global economic, financial, and political power firmly within a tightly integrated Western corridor. This infrastructure renders traditional maritime choke points obsolete, shifting the strategic focus away from vulnerable oceanic trade routes and centralizing economic control within a secure subterranean network. The transatlantic tunnel stands as a monument to heavy industrial engineering, a multi-trillion-dollar highway that permanently changed the geography of the planet and forced the laws of nature to bend to the demands of economic survival.